he was one black with 3 young white men who happened to end up with his phone, happened to end up with his keys, then there's just too many questions that they should not be closing the investigation. Now, I'm from Brooklyn, so I'm a little different than some of y'all. I was built different. My nose is out here, my eyes are here, my brain is here, which means some things I could smell before I could see and before I can figure out. This does not smell right. So some people are saying, Reverend, are y'all bringing in race? Well, we're not bringing in race, but we're not discounting race either, because we don't know what it is. So to tell us don't rush to judgment saying it was racist is fine. But then I'm telling you, don't rush to judgment saying it was not racism.
Try to say, oh, we're suggesting it was just an accidental drowning, go ahead and move on. Well, they are not accepting it. They are not accepting it. They want to know that you have not taken the path of least resistance, that you have done a full, complete, thorough, impartial investigation, because it cannot be lost on anybody, but especially us in the black community. If the roles were reversed and you had 3 young black men on a boat with a young white man, and that young white man ended up dead, what kind of investigation would be being conducted by the Mississippi law enforcement officials?
Oh, we got the GoFundMe. I want to show this too. We don't have a video of Benjamin Crump, but just so you guys know, Benjamin ambulance chasing Crump, which I think is the most corrupt. I personally think he's the most corrupt. Why do you say that, Brandon? It seems like he's always. Think about this for a minute. I want y'all to put this in perspective. And this is why I'm saying what I'm saying, because there ain't nobody gonna be like, I'm gonna sue Brandon for defamation. I have a logical conclusion that I've come to. I've seen Benjamin Crump on almost every single high-profile black case, and I don't think one time the cop got arrested in the situation. He was a part of Michael Brown's thing. The cop got free. He was a part of Eric Garner's thing. The cop went free. He was a part of Philando Castile thing. The cops went free. He was a part of what's his name? George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. There you go. He was a part of Trayvon Martin's team. George Zimmerman went free. Like, he a part of everybody thing as a family advocate, and he makes so much money doing this, and there has not been justice on 98% of the cases that he preside over. There has not been justice for these people. When I say justice, I mean the justice that he claimed he's going to get for the family. In these situations, all these people are wrong. But this dude has been on Breonna Taylor. He was on Breonna Taylor case. What happened? All the officers got off of Breonna Taylor case. This dude is on every case that he's on, advocating for the family, making millions of dollars. Because I'm pretty sure when they get a settlement, whether it was right or wrong, he get money from the settlement. Michael Brown's family got a settlement. Philando Castile's family, I believe, got a settlement, even though he was wrong. Eric Garner's family got a settlement. Breonna Taylor's family got a settlement, even though she was wrong. All of these people got settlements. He gets paid.
Boy. So we got to talk about how the race hustler Avengers have assembled, right? They've assembled on this Nolan Wells case, okay? It is very sad to see them once again using a grieving black family to push a narrative that is meant to divide this country and to enrich themselves, because that's exactly what is happening here, okay? As everybody should be aware, this Nolan Wells story has gone viral. A young black teenager who happened to be found dead after going to an island in Mississippi with his friends who happened to be white. Now, he went on a boat with white folks, but it wasn't just white people on the island. There were actually other friends that were on the island as well too, who were black, that knew Nolan. So this idea that he was just around a bunch of white people and therefore he was lynched, I think is probably not the logical conclusion. But again, logic goes out the window when it comes to the pro-blackies and the race hustlers. Is all emotion, okay? But this is what Nolan's friend had to say about a rumor on the internet that Nolan was in some argument, and it can be seen on video that he was in fact in some argument, which again is being used to push the conspiracy theory that again Nolan was ultimately lynched by his white friends. Take a look.
Javon, have you seen the video that's been going around social media where people think that they're hearing an argument between people and they're wondering whether or not Nolan is one of the people in that argument? You just described that you had another friend, not Nolan, another friend who was in and got into a dispute. Is that video the other argument that you were talking about?
Yes.
So, but is that Nolan in the video?
I can't tell. It's too far away. But in that video, I feel like the voices are too clear. Like from the side, it's too clear for it to be that far away, for it to be Nolan arguing. And then also that altercation, it sounds just like my other friend that got into an altercation on the boat. And they were trying to, like, as he was in that altercation, I was calming him down. They were trying to get him out off the island. They were trying to get him back to land because he was just losing it. So
describe that. That's kind of interesting. What was that about?
He was just very hostile. Like he was just like really like mad. Like they were just trying to, like the parents on that boat were trying to get him out.
I'm curious if the police have, I know they said they're still investigating. Did any investigators ever speak to you about what you saw that day?
No, sir.
Really?
Okay.
Cops have not talked to you yet.
No, sir.
That's odd.
I don't see why the cops would have to talk to me. I mean, obviously, like, you know, like I had said my plea, like, because whenever I had talked to the people at Sunheard, it was whenever, you know, the body was discovered and the autopsy people and all those people were there.
Well, I'll tell you why I'm surprised. Because you knew Nolan well, and you knew that he was friends with these guys who were the last ones to be around him before his body was found. And I would think they would at least want to know, hey, just the things we're asking.
Right.
You know, did you ever hear of any of this stuff? It's odd to me.
Just to gather information.
Yeah, that the cops wouldn't have contacted you. Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, I'm completely fine with that. Like I said, I have nothing to hide. Like, that's my boy, and I want him to find justice. Like, that, like, this whole case thing, like, whatever, like, this whole situation, and none of this adds up to me. So, like, it's really hard, like, for, like, people to just, like, keep on saying things when, like, none of it adds up, honestly.
Now, another part of this story that the race hustlers are using in order to push this conspiracy theory that it was a white mob that lynched Nolan Wells is this idea that nothing makes sense, right? He left his phone on the boat, and that just don't make sense. And I'm like, well, if they went to an island, and I have been to islands on boats, right? And it is normal to leave your phone on the boat when you have a large body of water between yourself and the island, right? You don't take your phone because your phone would be in the water, and you don't want to damage your phone. You don't want to take your keys. You don't want to lose anything on the island, which again would make sense in regards to why he didn't take his phone on the island. Again, you would know this if you actually had been to islands, if you do boat trips a lot, which I have done a lot. That's not abnormal. But again, people are trying to make this out to be some big mystery.
Earlier this morning, the parents of Nolan Wells went on a few different morning shows with their attorney, Ben Crump, and shared some different details that not a lot of people had. So in this video, I edited down one of their interviews and just kept the parts that would be important to the case and added a few different things to kind of round up the situation, because I think that this sheds light on some of the situation, but it also makes it a little more confusing.
All the boys got together, stayed the night. 4th of July, they launched the boat. They went to the island, and that was that. I was expecting hey, we're back, like he normally does. Didn't happen. One of the common misconceptions is that Nolan went to the island with just these 3 friends, when in fact, they were accompanied by his best friend. He was just on another boat. And that friend is Javon Williams. During the search for Nolan, a reporter actually spoke to Javon, and this is what they got from him. Wells headed to Horn Island on Saturday with friends. His best friend, 17-year-old Javon Williams, said he was supposed to be on the same boat, but it filled up. Williams rode out on a different boat, but he saw Wells on the island.
He believed that he saw Wells for the last time after 4 p.m. on Saturday. While on Horn Island, Williams said Nolan was hanging out with a girl and chatting with another group of friends in the crowd. Remember, Horn Island is a popular hangout spot. It's 4th of July weekend. And as you can see, there's a lot of people hanging out on this island, and I'm sure they have many different friend groups. Now, this next part is interesting. Both young men left their phones on the boat that Wells rode out on. Remember, Javon and Nolan each arrived on different boats. So, Javon obviously went to the boat that Nolan was on, and then they went over to the island, right? Because they both left their phones there. Now, I made a video talking about why these guys would leave their phone on their boat because there's a body of water between the boat and the island. It makes sense, and a lot of people couldn't understand that, but this is also interesting. Javon later retrieved his phone, which means before he left and left on the other boat, right, he got his phone from the boat that Nolan was on. So what happened there? Did he check up on Nolan? Interesting. And then, of course, Nolan's mother later found her son's phones through location services, right?
Get a phone call around 11, 4th of July. Hey, have you talked to Nolan? And I'm like, no, where's he at? So then my friend Tashima was so helpful in tracking his phone down because everyone was looking at the Snapchat location because all the kids follow each other. But I was looking at Life 360 and I'm like, well, I don't understand because I'm literally looking at his phone like it's at someone's house. So thankfully my friend did go grab the phone for us.
Now that last part is really important. Remember, the phone was left on the boat and the mother was tracking his location the entire time using Life 360, which tracks your location in real time. And remember, the only way the friends could track his location is through Snapchat. But Snapchat, unless you granted special access, it's only going to track your location when you have the app open.
Her two sons, Jalen and Javon, like they grew up together. They played City League sports together. When they got into school, they played sports together. And so she was like, hey, like, okay, the boys were pulling up the location from Snapchat. So the Snapchat location looks completely different than the Life 360 location. So when I pulled up Life 360, it was different. It was showing everywhere the phone had been. Like it had, I was like, well, it's showing that he's back on land. Like I'm not, he's like, but no, he didn't come back with us.
So that would explain why the mother's not seeing his location on Snapchat. The friends are not seeing his location on Snapchat, but on Life 360, she can see his location. Now, the mother said she sent a friend to get Nolan's phone. Where did she find it? Did she find it in the boat? Did the friends have it on them? Were they trying to hide it? That's very important because it would really kind of fill in a lot of blanks that we have because a lot of people are assuming that the friends were kind of hiding the phone.
Who called you first initially, and how well do you know the people that Nolan was hanging out with that day? How familiar are you with them and their families?
So their families, we have not met. So Warren was the one who made the phone call. And he did contact the Coast Guard as well, which I know there's some discrepancies now with that.
Now, the discrepancy was that the sheriff's office said that they contacted the Coast Guard on the morning of July 5th, right, the day after. But Warren, the friend, right, that called and asked where he was at, actually reported him to the Coast Guard missing on July 4th.
The mother of one of the boys who was with Nolan apparently posted on social media that Nolan made a decision to stay on the island and then return inland later with another group of friends. Were you made aware of that plan beforehand? Is that something that Nolan would have done or would do often?
Now, I'm sure all of us are familiar with the letter that Warren's mother put out talking about the situation. And the mother released a statement talking about a bunch of other things, but the important part is she said that Warren saw Nolan last around 3 p.m. on July 4th and said that they left around 4:30 when the boat was taken on water. Apparently, there was an issue with the bilge pump. They said that Nolan made the decision to stay on the island and return inland later with another group of friends. Now, I'm wondering why Javon's not being mentioned in any of this because he went with him too. And the only reason why they weren't together was because they didn't have room on that boat. So, interesting.
No.
No, he wouldn't. Nolan was always taught to stay with the group. If you leave with me, you come back with me.
You think he got left behind then?
Yes. I don't believe he decided to stay on the island by himself. It just doesn't, that's not his character.
Attorney Crump, you have a lot of questions about what happened, ranging from the fact that the police very quickly declared that they didn't see any evidence of foul play, but then said that they were now investigating, to the timeline, the idea of where the phone could potentially be. Help me understand.
Vlad, there are so many glaring contradictions, and that's why so many people all across America are chiming in and saying this is not adding up. I mean, you have them saying he was talking to a young lady, and she said that he said, I'm going to get back on the boat with the boys. Well, the boys say he said that, no, I'm going to stay with her.
Now, this is the alleged girl, right? A lot of he said, she said. Now, she's saying, again, that he said he was going to go back with a group of friends.
I mean, which is it? And then on top of that, you talk about this video that's out there that shows this apparent argument going on where Nolan says, where's my freaking phone? What are you freaking doing? And then his phone turns up missing. I don't know any 18-year-old, if you go with their story that he said he was going to stay behind, I'm going to leave my cell phone behind. It's not adding up. And so those are the things that his mother and father are saying, we're not accepting this. He was a college athlete. He was in superb shape. And so he's a good swimmer. And you see the video of all those people out there. If he's drowning, nobody's going to help.
Yeah. So expecting the pro-blacks, the anti-whites, and the race hustlers, because that's what they are, to be honest with you, to use logic, to take their emotions out of it, right? To use reasoning in regards to, okay, what is a reasonable explanation for why he would leave his phone on the boat and stuff like that? Again, there are reasonable explanations for a lot of this stuff. They just don't want to accept it because it doesn't fit the narrative that they want to push, which is he went with white friends. He was around all white people, right? Which we know is not true anymore, right? He wasn't just surrounded by all white people, right? He went with white people on the boat, right? His white friends on the boat. And apparently because another boat was filled up, right? There was no room. So he, decided to go on a boat with his other friends that just so happened to be white. Okay. It wasn't, again, a trip where he was just one of these guys, one of the token blacks in the friend group of white people. That's not how this was. It's not what this was. Okay. At all. Again, this is the narrative that was pushed by, again, the pro-blackities. It's kind of wild.
The family of Nolan Wells is skeptical of local Mississippi law enforcement. They hired civil rights attorney Ben Crump to conduct an independent investigation into their son's death. During a press conference today with Reverend Al Sharpton and Wells' parents by his side, Crump claimed law enforcement can't be trusted when black children are killed. This before they even got any substantive details about the investigation.
Oftentimes, when our children are killed in highly questionable situations, that there is this notion that, it was nothing wrong, no foul play, let's just sweep it under the rug. Well, we refuse to sweep it under the rug. We refuse to just let Nolan Wells' death be in vain. We're going to make sure that we get to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Look, no one knows yet exactly what happened to Nolan Wells. And if the facts show something sinister, every ounce of this family's anger is obviously justified. But that's the part that's kind of nagging at me. We don't have the facts yet. The autopsy isn't back. The toxicology report isn't back. And the verdict is already being delivered from a podium in New York City by two activists who seem to want this to be race-related. And Crump isn't the only one implying that this was racially motivated. You have so far nothing official to back it up. Online, though, people have blamed Wells' parents for letting him befriend white people. And one man even blamed Donald Trump. Watch this.
Stop killing our children, son of a... We don't care if you think you're rich.
The more I learn about the Nolan Wells case, the more I'm convinced that it was a Klan initiation ritual.
Are we not teaching our kids that if they are the only black person in a group of white people, their life is in danger? Are we not teaching our kids that they don't have a friend in white people?
Let your only black, not only, but you let your only your black boy go on vacation with 4 white during this presidency.
Look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the reports come back and there's a real case here. I hope for this family's sake that we get the truth either way, but building a racial narrative around a dead teen before the medical examiners even finished the job, the autopsy report is going to help answer whether this was an accident or something worse. But right now, this doesn't feel like justice. It feels exploitative. Frankly, it feels gross.
Yeah, it is gross, right? It's disgusting, but it's par for the course, right? It's par for the course when you talk about how these people operate, right? We're not dealing with logical people. We're not dealing with reasonable people. We're not dealing with smart people, okay? We learned this with the Carmelo Anthony thing, right? These people will make up in their head what happened, and they will ignore any facts, any evidence that goes against the narrative that they want to believe, that they've already convinced themselves is true. It doesn't matter the facts. It doesn't matter what the investigation shows. They have convinced themselves in their minds, in their pea brains, right, that this is a white lynching. Okay, and everything else outside of that is just a part of the grand conspiracy theory to cover up the white lynching. Okay, you got Colin Kaepernick and others getting in on this. So you got Crump, you got Al Sharpton, then you got Kaepernick in on it, right? So again, this is the race hustlers, the Avengers, the race hustler Avengers, assembly, right? To push this narrative. Now, Kaepernick claims that, he's going to pay for independent autopsy, right? Which is a part of his initiative to pay for autopsies, independent autopsy, as if that's going to show anything different, right? He's going to pay for the autopsy in order to prove that this is a white lynching. Now, we already know what happened the last time Kaepernick did this, right? He paid for the autopsy of Trey Reed, who was allegedly lynched by a white mob, right? According to the pro-blackies, even though clearly, it was suicide, right? All the investigations, the state investigations, the coroner, again, these are all black people that were doing this, by the way, the investigation, all showed that this was suicide, right? Kaepernick does the independent autopsy, and he never releases the results, right? Never releases the results. Why did he release the results? Because the results didn't say what he wanted it to say, so he just swept it on the rug, right? He just never said anything about it. So again, I wonder what's gonna happen in this situation when they do the so-called independent autopsy and they don't get the results that they want. They're never gonna mention it again. They're gonna move on to the next thing, right? So again, do you guys see how predatory this is? How disgusting this is? But again, like I said, there's no facts, there's no evidence, there's nothing that will convince these people otherwise, because they've already convinced themselves that, again, this is a white lynching.
Obviously, we need the autopsy report, that there are real questions about witness accounts. All of that, I think, is fair game. But let's be precise, because a kid is dead here. What's the actual evidence? Not a feeling, not a vibe. What is the evidence that anyone has produced that shows race had anything to do with this?
Well, we can talk about the evidence of what's been going on in America the last 400 years.
Talk about this case. Talk about this case.
I'm talking about it, but I'm going to talk about it the way I want to talk about it. Now, if you've asked me to come on to be your guest, and I'm going to talk about it the way I want to talk about it, sir. Now, you asked me a question based on what does race have to do with it. We can talk about Fannie Hamer and what she's talked about in Mississippi being a place of oppression. But as we talk about this case...
That's literally the only thing they got, bro. That's what they got. He was with white teenagers, and it's Mississippi. Therefore, it must be lynching. Right? That's what it is, bro. That is the logic in their heads. It's so crazy to me. It's so wild. It's wow. These people will realize we're not living in the Jim Crow South anymore, right? We're not living in the 1940s. Okay, we're not living that. That's not the time they were living in anymore, right? Again, Mississippi and him being around white people does not mean lynching, but in their minds, that's the conclusion they've come to.
And what's important, if you do not want people to speculate, then investigate. The family, I'm not talking...
They are investigating, but you're not waiting for the investigation to conclude, because they're saying, hey, we don't have evidence of foul play yet, but they're still investigating. There's more evidence that's going to come out. Okay, autopsy report is going to come out. There's more stuff that's going to come out, but these people don't want to wait. They want to already draw conclusions and cry racism and lynching before there's any evidence whatsoever to suggest that any foul play was involved. Again, I'm not saying it is impossible that there was some foul play. I'm not saying it was impossible that he wasn't lynched. I'm just saying it is very, very, very unlikely, right? Considering the facts and evidence that we have right now that is what happened, right? I understand how these trips kind of go. I was a teenager at one point in time. I've been on some of these boat trips. I understand. People are drinking. People are doing drugs. Even you talk about 18-year-olds. People drink. People do drugs. People do stuff. You get in the water, right? You get a little bit too deep. Okay, you think you know how to swim. That happens. I'm telling you, stuff happens. And that is why it is so important to wait, right? To wait until we get the actual facts and evidence, okay, before drawing any conclusion. But they can't do that, right? I have not drawn any conclusions, okay, about what happened to this young man, right? I am waiting for the facts and evidence before I can say. But as of right now, I don't see any evidence of a white mob lynching.
Talking about those online, but the family has that questions be answered. And I would like to ask you, do you have a child?
I do not have a child.
Okay, well, I do. I have a 19-year-old daughter. Also had a cousin who was murdered, who was also a football star, who was murdered at 19. And it took us about a month to find his body. So maybe there's not empathy there for...
Murdered by who? Right? Was he murdered by a white mob? Right? I'm very interested to know who was he murdered by?
from you, sir. I'm not sure.
There's nothing. This has nothing to do with a lack of empathy. You're calling for an investigation. Everyone is. Is there anyone who's saying that there shouldn't be an investigation?
It actually does, because you're jumping to race when the family.
I'm not jumping to race. I didn't hire Ben Crump. I didn't get Reverend Al Sharpton there.
Right. With the family.
Facts. And the family is being used right now. And again, this is the saddest part about it. Obviously, they're grieving. They want answers. And these pro-blackities, right? These race hustlers, they're using the family in order to advance their own agenda, right? That really has nothing to do with caring about what happened to this black teenager. Because let's be real, I've covered stories where black teenagers have been murdered. Young black girls have been murdered at prom, going to prom. Nobody know who did it, right? Nobody know who did it. Police are actively investigating, trying to figure out who did it. Where was Al Sharpton? Nowhere to be found. Where was Benjamin Crump? Nowhere to be found. When black people kill every single day and the suspect is on the run and nobody knows who did it, right? Or what happened, even though they were obviously murdered, these people don't care. They're silent because no white person was involved. Because they can't use this in order to enrich themselves. You can't make money off black on black crime, right? Black on black lynchings. You can't make money off that, right? Can't race hustle off of that. That's why they don't give a damn. Your life as a black person only matters if they can make money off of it via trying to blame white people and racially divide this country. It's disgusting. It is sick.
Family is actually asking for questions to be answered. The family is actually wanting to know, why did his friends have his keys? The family's actually wanting to know, why did they have his phone? Why did he leave? Why did he say he wanted to stay on the island by himself? These are all justifiable questions.
Agreed.
And I would assume that maybe
apparently he was chasing a girl. He was chasing some tail. I don't know. But again, none of this points to white lynching. None of it points to white lynching. Okay?
if you were a parent, maybe you could empathize with wanting to know exactly.
You keep accusing someone of not showing empathy when I'm simply saying, have you seen even any evidence that suggests the police aren't doing investigation?
Again, look at this. Again, they got drinks, you know, stuff like that. So I'm just saying, you know, who knows? Maybe that's a soda. I don't know. But, you know, I'm just saying, alcohol is involved, drugs are involved, substances are involved. Yeah, again, you're on an island, you're swimming, right? You're having, like, stuff happens. Stuff happens.
Investigation. I get that there is questions to be answered, right? I mean,
but that's
what they're doing.
There hasn't been an investigation. And just a moment ago,
there hasn't been an investigation?
Just a moment ago, it has not been a thorough investigation. And just a moment ago, when Mr. Thrasher was on, and he made the point to say that he went in the water and never came back, you didn't question him one time, sir, and ask him.
Because he's not part of the investigation.
But you didn't question him one time and ask him, how does he know that he went in the water? So there's a lot of misconception. That's the whole point in having an investigation. And what Attorney Crump is
We are having an investigation, though, correct?
And what that's exactly it. And an independent investigation. An independent investigation in addition to what Mississippi has done or not done. And why would you or anybody else have an issue with a family wanting to have an independent investigation?
I don't. I have an issue with people who are maybe paying too close attention to the race element here before they have any of those details and setting up a narrative that is setting up that family to maybe not accept what actually happened. Again, I have no idea what happened. I'd like to actually wait, at least in part, for some of the details to come out, including an autopsy. You certainly concede an autopsy is important here, correct?
Absolutely. Well, the details are that a young 19-year-old black young man, that's okay to say, just like you described it and everything else, went off with his all-white friends and did not return, and none of them say they saw anything. So if you don't want the speculation, then let's use this time to ask his white friends to tell the family what actually happened, because they claim to not know anything. Doesn't sound like something doesn't make sense to you? What teenager leaves their phone and stays on an island and doesn't leave with the children that they came with?
A teenager that's trying to get some ass, right? I mean, that's allegedly what he was doing. He was trying to get some ass, and he left his phone and stuff on the boat. Like, I mean, again, to me, it's not a big mystery, right? In regards to why he would want to stay, okay? I mean, it's just one of those things where if you have any experience doing this stuff, right, like, you know how these trips go down, right? You know how it goes down. So I'm just saying, like, none of this is a mystery to me, right? Because, again, I just kind of know how it goes. Like, these people think that this is so big. It's not a big mystery at the end of the day. Like, I just would not be surprised if to find out that maybe, just maybe, he got super drunk, right? And he wasn't necessarily in his right state of mind for whatever reason. And he made some bad decisions. Maybe he decided to get in the water. He got a little bit too deep in the water. He lost control, and maybe he ended up drowning. I don't know, right? I don't know. I'm just saying that none of this is a big mystery to me, right? Outside of, okay, like, why did he actually die? Like, how did he actually die, right? That is, you know, what I want to know more so than anything. But, you know, again, to me, I just don't see any evidence of foul play yet.
Believe the Wells when they
Teams
say they
never
told him
do
to
anything that don't make sense. Every time
Well,
they
of
do
course they do,
everything
but
is
you
they
would
follow
know
exactly
because
what
you're not
you
a
as an
parent.
adult
Well,
would
you-
suggest they do.
Well, you would know because you're not a parent, my love. And I believe the Wells.
Well, I
when
was
they
a
say-
teenager at some point in my
Right,
life,
but
believe
you've
it or
never
not.
been a
And I
parent.
understand how teens actually
but you've
act.
never, but you've never been a parent. And what we teach our children is when you.
Sounds like we actually disconnected with them. Teslin,
happened to
there we go. Wrap it up. We got 10 seconds.
What happened to Nolan? Let's use the rest of this 10 seconds to ask his friends, white friends, brown friends, black friends, what happened to Nolan?
Yeah, I think all of us actually want to get to that answer. Teslin Figaro, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah. These people don't want to know what actually happened because once they find out what actually happened, they're going to refuse to accept it, right? They want a so-called independent investigation, a.k.a. they want an investigation that gives them the conclusion that they've already come to, right? Which is that it was a white lynching. I don't think that that's what we're going to get, but we're going to see. All I'm saying is that what's happening right now feels very gross. It feels very disgusting, and his family is being taken advantage of, and it's just sad to see, but it's par for the course with these people. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.